Can't believe it. Like I can't believe it. This is insane. So where do I begin? I got a text message at 1:30 in the morning, I think, maybe even later in the morning. Can't access the account. We're locked out of the account. I think we got shut down. And so the first time we got shut down by Airbnb, it was a warning. And they sent us an email and said, you must acknowledge this email. And then the second time was permanent shutdown. I want to talk to you about why they shut down my account, what that email initially was like, and of course, God, what are we doing about it? The email said, we have deactivated your account for violations of terms of service, very generic, and it was regarding us trying to either communicate with a guest off platform or trying to collect money off platform. And of course, they didn't tell us where they originated this from. We're still trying to figure out if it's, even after a guest books, if you try to get them to text you, which would be absolutely wild because everybody does that. But we believe that there's a conversation where somebody's asking like how they can pay. They may be wanted to pay for a really long time. We offered for them to book with us initially, and if they wanted to renew directly, they could, which would have been a roundabout a way to collect money off the platform potentially. So that's where we think it started. We still don't know where this originated from. So of course we had to acknowledge within 48 hours that email, otherwise the account would be permanently shut down. We acknowledged it and they reactivated. That was number one. But here's what happens when Airbnb even just temporarily shuts down your account. Let's get to the permanent one in a second. But at that point, even when they reactivated it, everything was gone. Every message we've ever had for a guest, past, present, future, all communications were wiped. So current reservations that we've had, whether they checked in yesterday, a week ago, a month ago, we didn't have any of their correspondence. And anytime that they would send us a message, it would not update us that a message was sent. So that the system ultimately broke. So we were getting messages from guests and not knowing we were getting messages from guests on, about 100 properties. And for those of you who wonder why I say about 100 properties is because when we activate a long-term booking, that is no longer a short-term and it's no longer active on the platform. So we will float 103 properties, and some of them will be long-term, some will be short-term. So we have about 100 properties on the platform at all times, but some of them are long-term or off-platform bookings. So the total number of active listings may vary depending on how we acquired a guest and how long that guest is staying for, etc., other factors. So anyway, all of these bookings, communications essentially disappeared. So that was fun. So if you get your account deactivated by Airbnb ever, first thing you need to go do is dig through your email and look for an email from customer service support and see why you got deactivated. And they'll usually send an email. And if you don't respond, you're permanently deactivated and there's nothing you can do about it. 48 hours, you're done. And then of course, now you have to go back through and message every single guest if you get reactivated and say, hey, the system is has a bug. We're not seeing any new messages right now. Also communicate with us by text. We're trying to constantly refresh our inbox to see if we're missing any messages. So we just messaged every single guest to let them know that we're not getting messages. And that became our thing. Then it happened again. And this time it was just permanent. So again, we didn't know what it was that they think was a violation of terms of service. Either we tried to communicate with a guest off platform or we tried to collect money off platform or something, but they just wiped it again. This almost happened months ago. And the reason why it almost happened months ago was because we have multiple accounts. But we also have a business representative that understands that we have multiple accounts. And all the biggest companies have multiple accounts. Sonder has one per city, for example. And so our business rep is very much aware of this. And somebody tried to escalate us for review for having multiple accounts. And I immediately sent that to our business rep. She's like, oh, I see that. I'm going to block it. I'm going to let them know it's all good. So it could have been a new one of those. It could have been just for us having multiple accounts and our business rep wasn't notified in time to protect us from it. But of course, Airbnb doesn't tell you why they're shutting you down. Wild. Here's the hack here. We learned a hack. And we just happened to get lucky, I guess, and this is how we got through it. So that account that got permanently deactivated was a co-host account. It was the primary co-host account for all of our listings. So it is the one communicating with guests. It's the one that escalates to Airbnb. And so when Airbnb wants to verify a listing or an account, they always go to the primary host. They don't care who the admin is. You get 4 different admin accounts and 1 primary host account. The primary host account is the only one that they care about, even if you're doing a resolution. And a lot of you know that if you do a resolution, it has to be done through the admin, like if you file something in the resolution center. But Airbnb still wants to only communicate with the primary co-host account, even in matters of resolution. Really, really weird. And they have told me on the phone that it is in their policies that if a resolution is open, that they have to contact the admin. But with a lot of what's going on lately, they are bypassing the resolution center and just like opening tickets and issuing refunds and trying to communicate with the primary co-host account. So that's just something you should be aware of. So since all the communication and all transgressions apparently went through the primary co-host account, that was the one that got permanently shut down. So the admin accounts were safe. We could no longer utilize this primary co-host account, and we actually had to switch and basically just drop that primary co-host account and pick up a new account and make that one the primary co-host account. So we were able to bypass like a deactivation of all of our listings on the admin side, and that bought us time to let our business manager know that Airbnb was doing something funky, and we never got like word back on what actually happened, but then we surmounted it, and Airbnb has so far been pretty chill about it. So with that said, I want to talk about other ways that you can get your like listing deactivated, because this is important. We survived this one, but geez, I mean, they have so much freaking power. They can just like shut you down. So you guys need to be safe. One is reviews. Your listings can get paused if you're under 4.5 stars. And you get like a 2-star or maybe it's a 3-star or less review, they can pause your listing. No matter what your rating is, if you get 2-star or worse reviews in a row, they'll pause your listing for 5 days. Now, if you're under 4.5 and you get just one, they'll pause your listing for 5 days. We had a listing get deactivated because somebody broke into it. We had a past guest. This just happened last week. We had a past guest who broke into the apartment because their checkout was that day, and they could have sworn that they were supposed to be staying that night as well. So we locked the door. They like scaled the balcony or something to get in, and then like the intrusion alarm went off. The police got called. And they're like, no, we're supposed to be here. And they lied to the cops because they thought they were right, and the cops left. Otherwise, they knowingly lied. Now, we reported that to Airbnb and reported the guest. Airbnb shut the listing down for safety, and it's been this is over a week ago. It's been almost 14 days. By the time you see this video, it will have been 14 days that the listing was shut down for review because somebody broke into it. So you can have listings shut down for those reasons. Now, you can have listings shut down for even longer for other violations, and they can be arbitrary, but they're mostly all terms of service violations, stuff like that. You as a host can get shut down for terms of service violations and also for reviews. If your account is under 3.5 stars total, like account wide, they can put your account into review and then shut your entire host account down. Admin, admin is the one who gets all the reviews anyway, so this would affect the admin account, and shut the admin down on the host side for being under 3.5. This should never happen. Like this should never, ever, ever happen. That's like a low review average. But Sonder and Houston, unfortunately, they've been like floating down at that point. And we've noticed that our reviews really depend on the listing, not just on our operational model. You'll see a past video that I did called The Rescue. We did 2 videos where we took over 8 apartments in Houston, and they are ultra cheap apartments. We're talking apartments that are like under $1,000 a month for a 1-bedroom for rent in the Galleria. So location's good, but it's super cheap. So these super cheap apartments are not in any way really attractive. It's a 2-star, 2.5-star hotel level of quality, maybe 3-star level of quality, because of the appliances and just how the building's maintained it. We've done our best to put lipstick on it, make it look good, but that building gets worse reviews no matter what we do compared to all of our other listings in Houston or Dallas. We have partitioned off those listings to protect our overall rating on our other admin accounts, but it still looks like trash. What can you do? You could just not pick up bad properties or like low cost properties. Otherwise, we would have to find a way to like really tell people, you're not going to like this place as like a luxury property. This is a value stay. And we've priced it accordingly, but maybe there's something that we can do better as a host to let people know to expect a lackluster accommodation just at a really affordable price because the rent's under $1,000. You can also get shadow banned. I did a previous video where I talk about different shadow ban scenarios. Well, I found one that actually happens. In Philadelphia, I'm going through a legal battle with a landlord that tried to commit fraud and use me to commit fraud. That's going to be coming up later. Now, in that whole scenario, they backed out of our deal. They're like, we're not going to let you do Airbnb. But they try to act like they never allowed me to do Airbnb in the first place. So that's where they're lying to the world and saying, we never allowed this to happen. Months and months of you taking a third of our property, we did not know you were Airbnb and we never allowed you to do it. Really stupid logic. But they sent a letter. The opposing counsel sent a letter to Airbnb saying this person doesn't have permission, they're violating your policies, they're violating our policies. So what Airbnb did is that account, that admin account, they shut the whole thing down shadow ban style. So you cannot see that anything is wrong. You'll just stop getting bookings. So my local manager for Philadelphia is like, hey, Sean, you know that this other building hasn't had a single booking for like 3 days. And I'm like, you know what, I didn't even notice. I'll price 2 or 3 times a day, but I wasn't actually actively looking back at the last 2 days to notice that they didn't get booked. So the building that we're not supposed to Airbnb and we're in a legal battle with, we already shut down. This new building, another one in Philadelphia, wasn't getting any bookings because account-wide, they shadow banned the account. I had contacted Airbnb about it. They're like, oh yeah. They never notified me. They're like, oh yeah, this is something that's going on and you need to show us proof. So then I got a lease from that building showing that the lease says that the purpose of this agreement or this lease is to conduct short-term rentals. So then they reactivated the entire account after I showed proof. So Airbnb can shadow ban you if they think that you're ghost hosting or illegally hosting, and you'll need to show proof to get out of that. Be careful. If Airbnb shuts you down for like a bad reason, like for illegally Airbnb-ing and you get shut down by the landlord, or you do some sort of crime, or you have some egregious complaint against you by guests and it escalates up to Airbnb, Airbnb does have some form of blacklist. I've seen this for a couple of years where Airbnb will follow that person and everything that like you try to do to get back on the platform, they'll swat down. So same phone number, same addresses, same IP address on your devices, same associated co-hosts. Like I've seen co-hosts get shut down because they were associated with somebody who did some bad stuff. And Airbnb's ban hammer is so strong that you just can't get around it. It's important for you to structure things the right way in order to prevent this from happening. Having multiple listings is dangerous. It's against their policies technically, but Airbnb does allow it for businesses. If you have a pro host representative like I do, you can communicate with them and tell them that you intend on having multiple listings. And they can protect you from review. And you should constantly be in communication with your pro host. You should have a primary co-host account representing your admin account. So even if you have one admin account with all your listings, have another co-host account, because you don't have multiple admins. You just have a co-host account for your employees. You won't get shut down for that because technically that co-host account is somebody else's account. It's your employees or your contractor's account. Do it like that. And this way, if the co-host does something stupid, the co-host can get shut down, but the admin is kind of like on an island. Make sure that you have documentation on file proving that you have the right to Airbnb. If you do arbitrage with a landlord, make sure that it's in the lease or a lease addendum, and cover your tail because you don't want to have to go through this. And be careful with how you respond to guests on the platform. Airbnb software automatically looks for things. So like, for example, if you try to share your phone number in a run of 3 numbers, their algorithm now finds that you have sequences of numbers that could be a phone number, and they will block that out. And that could also be a way that they will find you for trying to communicate off the Airbnb platform and shut you down for that. So Airbnb is becoming more and more elegant in preventing off-platform bookings because obviously they know that hosts are super upset still about the fact that all these cancellations happened, and they don't want Airbnb to get a transaction fee for like bigger bookings. I see it all the time. People are like, hey, I've got a 4-month booking that I could get. How can I get it off platform so I don't have to pay that 11% for 4 months? So hosts are trying to stay off platform, but they're also using the Airbnb platform to get those bookings. And Airbnb, of course, is trying to prevent people from, like, I guess, defrauding their platform and stealing the transaction fee. You can get shut down and not be the end of the world. You can get shut down and you will be like marked for life, and Airbnb will follow you forever and you'll never be able to host. There's different versions. So just be aware, be safe, be smart. If you have questions or want to share a story personally, because I know a lot of you have reached out to me about getting shut down yourselves or getting shadow banned, put them in the comments. I think hosts need to know. So thank you for watching Airbnb Automated, and I'll see you on the other side.